Hey y'all, Jay Nice on the mic. It's been a long time, but I'm back for another video. So welcome everyone to my channel. I really wanted to do a video on my hair journey, particularly as a 4C hair girly. The reason why I have been thinking about this topic and wanted to do a video on this topic is because I just had an opportunity to write a piece for Harvard Business Review that I am so excited about. And so y'all, what's wild is I had on my vision board that I wanted to write an article for Harvard Business Review. And some of y'all may know this if you follow me on Instagram. I've talked about this before. But every year I do like Canva vision boards and I put it on my phone background and on my computer background. And Harvard Business Review was like in the corner and I didn't really have a way to make it happen. And randomly someone that I'm in community with on LinkedIn sent me a message, and she writes for Harvard Business Review regularly. So shout out to Rashika. And she was like, hey, are you interested? I think that you could lend a lot of information and insight to the topic of hair discrimination, because I talk about hair discrimination a lot on my LinkedIn page. And here's the link. I'll have the link to my LinkedIn if you want to connect with me. But I was like, you know what? I used to be a YouTube girly and I'm trying to get back on the YouTube scene. And I think it would be really great to do like a video highlighting my hair journey as a 4C hair girl. So I will have in the comment section below the link to read the full article if you're interested. But I wanted to take y'all along the journey. And I hope that my experiences with my hair may be insightful for folks who don't have 4C hair, who don't understand hair discrimination, or just folks who want a better understanding of what people who have experienced hair bias and discrimination experience. So let's get into it. So for those of you who are not familiar, I actually did an article, I wrote an article about 4C hair and what it is. Essentially, to break it down in the most simplest terms, 4C hair is just a particular hair type, right? So there was, which was really interesting that I found out when I was researching an article I wrote on texturism, is that the person who originally created the hair typing system was a eugenicist. Back in the day, he had this hair typing system to help figure out whose hair had more of a proximity to whiteness. So with this hair typing system, Oprah's former hairstylist, whose name is escaping me right now, created a hair typing system that is popular and that is well used and well known now. And based on that hair typing system, it basically classifies people's hair based on the texture, the looseness of the curls, the curl pattern. And so there's type 1 hair, there's type 2 hair, there's type 3 hair, and there's type 4 hair. On the spectrum, type 4 hair is the kinkiest and most curly, coiled type of hair. So I'll insert some pictures so you can get a better idea of the hair typing system. But so Oprah's former stylist or hairstylist created this hair typing system. Andre Walker, I believe is his name. And so I'm gonna actually, I wrote this article on texturism if you want to learn more about the eugenicist who created the hair typing system and all of that. So you can find that in the comment section below or in the description box. See, y'all, I've been off of YouTube. It feels like so long that I don't even know the terminology anymore. It's in the description box below. So I have the kinkiest hair type, right? And hair texture, right? I've been a 4C hair girly my entire life. And so growing up, and I'm gonna insert some pictures, growing up, my sister and I had really thick hair, and I think it was a lot for my mom to deal with. And we started going to this lady, Miss Betty. I don't even know where Miss Betty is at, but we started going to this lady, Miss Betty, to get perms put on our hair, right? We were, I don't know how old we were, probably like 9 or 10. Because back in the day, all the like young black girls had something in their hair, right? And so we started going to Miss Betty, and she would put like a softener in our hair. I feel like it was a perm, like Soul Glow type of perm, like the perm that white people get on their hair to make their hair curly. We got that in our hair, right? And so that would help with the manageability of our hair. And, you know, I'm very tender-headed. I don't remember if my sister is tender-headed, but I'm super tender-headed. So like when my mom would even try to detangle my hair, it would be like, I would be crying and crying and crying. So it was a lot, right? So we got this perm in our hair, right? And so my family moved to the Middle East when I was like 11. And in the Middle East, the air it's very arid and dry, and so that had an effect on our hair. And around this time, my mom started using pressing combs on our hair, right? And I'll show y'all a picture. It was so cool when I went to the Black Hair Experience, which is like a black hair museum that they've opened in some of the major cities. They had one in Brooklyn. I think it might be reopening this summer, but they have one in, I believe in LA, but I went to the one in Atlanta. And I think they have one in the DMV, and they're opening another one somewhere else. But it was so cool because in the museum it has like black hair artifacts, right? And they had a pressing comb, like the little place where the hot comb goes. They had that, right? And I just had so many memories of like my mom pressing my hair, my sister's hair for years. And for those of us who've ever gotten our hair even straightened, when you're getting your hair straightened, the stylist is like, hold your ear. So you're like holding your ear, right? And like trying to make sure you don't jump when it gets close to your scalp. And so we were getting our hair pressed, and I had like, I would say like shoulder length hair back then. And I remember I wanted to be different. I was in like 7th grade, and I was like, I want to be different. And so I asked my mom to like chop me a little, like, it wasn't even a bob, it was a little longer than a bob. And I remember went to school, and people were like, oh my God, you cut your hair. What's wild, y'all, is I don't have any pictures during that time, right? But I knew that like what had been ingrained in me, not from my mom, but just what I saw in society, what I saw whenever I turned on the TV, was that like Black women had straight hair. The thought of like wearing my natural hair in its natural state out to school was like a thought that never even crossed my mind, right? Okay, y'all, I have something on the stove, and I'm trying to multitask, right? So you might hear it sizzling in the background, but I had to go check on it. So, right, pressing combs, right? So my mom was pressing my hair, my sister's hair, and at this time, as a Black person living in the Middle East, going to a British school and going to an American school, I just wanted to be normal. I wanted to fit in with the kids, right? Because in elementary school, this is like a trip down memory lane for the 90s babies, right? There were these little things called Chia Pets, and they had a commercial for them. And so they're like little bonsai trees that you can like cut and shape in different ways. I know they had one of that painter Bob something that everyone sort of like, people dress up as him for Halloween, but they had like these cute little Chia Pets you could cut into different, you know, whatever you wanted. And there was this white boy, this young little white boy in our school, in elementary school, when my sister and I were in school. He would see my sister and I, and he'd be like, Chia, because we had, back then, right, this was elementary school, we had our natural hair, and we had thick hair, right? My mom would put it in little barrettes, and my mom was like the illest stylist, right? She would always have us, we were done up, right? But I remember, I don't know how we came to school one day, maybe with the little Afro puffs, and he was like, Chia, and that stayed with me. So when we moved to the Middle East, I just wanted to be normal. I just wanted straight hair, and straight hair was normal, right? And so we moved to the Middle East, and my mom was pressing our hair. And then we moved away from this lady, Miss Betty, that was putting perm in our hair, right? Because we moved to Minnesota, and Minnesota, the climate is very cold. And so now my mom has to figure out what to do with our hair, right? So during this period where we were in Minnesota, I remember I had natural hair. And then at some point I asked my mom to start putting perm back in my hair, right? So I was getting that, like, I wanted my hair to look like I wanted that, like, how do I say this without, I did not want my hair to look like my hair. I did not want my hair to look like 4C hair, right? So I had this whole Michael Jackson thing going where it legit looked like Michael Jackson, because my hair was like this wavy sort of, like, it was a perm, right? And so I remember people used to, like, sometimes compliment me and be like, oh, your hair texture. And in my head, I'm like, child, this is not my real hair texture, right? So then I moved into high school, right? And moved back to Virginia. And in Virginia, now, when I was nearing the end of my high school, I was around all black people, right? Prior to this, I was around mostly white people. And it was around this time that I started hearing people talk about perms. But when they talked about perms, they were talking about relaxers, which is like what a lot of people use now, which is chemical straighteners, right? It doesn't do the little wavy curly thing, the chemical straighteners, so the relaxers, right? And I was like, I want to get a relaxer too. So I told my mom. So my mom started doing relaxer. And around this time, the Chi was like big, right? Everyone was getting the Chi flat iron. And so I would have my hair relaxed. And then I would go steal. My mom had a Chi because she ended up, I personally think it's because she wanted to learn how to figure out how to deal with our hair. But my mom ended up becoming a licensed cosmetologist. She said, it's because she was interested, which I believe she was interested in cosmetology, but I really think part of it was fueled by her desire to want to be able to figure out what to do with her daughter's hair, right? So my mom was a licensed cosmetologist. She had all of this equipment. She had one of those fancy salon chairs. And so I would sneak and take my mom's Chi iron, and like before I went to school, I was so much heat damage, right? And one thing is, like, I feel like when I was in high school, that's when people started doing the baby hairs, right? And as a 4C hair girl, you can't really see it in the video because I have like this band on, and I have this band on because I'm too lazy to lay my edges. But like my edges as a 4C hair girl, and I have my natural hair, they don't really lay, right? It doesn't lay the way I think that society has made me feel like it should lay. So I don't really lay them. I like to just wear different color headbands and switch it up, or hats. And so when I got into college, I was getting relaxers and I just wanted to fit in with everyone. But that's around the time that I started wearing weaves and hair extensions, right? And wigs. And there was a girl, Chanel, that used to do my hair for like $60, $70, which back in the day, that was like a great rate. All right, $60, $70. She would come to me. I think she would come to my apartment and she would like do my hair. And I look back, I'm gonna show some pictures right here. I look back at my hair in college and I'm like, some of these styles were just like not popping. But I made it work, right? And so like I transitioned into, one thing that you may notice in what I'm sharing with you about my hair journey is, at no point, or at few points during my upbringing and my coming of age, did I ever really wear my hair out, right? My natural hair. If my hair was natural, it was under weaves, under wigs, like I didn't just wear it out. And so fast forward to graduate school, I was in Louisiana, which is a pretty hot climate, and I was living with my parents, and I was like, okay, I need to put the perm back in my hair, right? Not the relaxer perm, the perm. Because I wanted that, like in the hot climate, I wanted that little wavy look. So my mom was perming, as in curly, perming my hair while I was in graduate school, right? So when I was like 23, 24, 25. And so I had that little curly look going, but what I noticed was that I wasn't retaining my length and my hair was looking really stringy. And my friends had commented. I had a friend who was like, oh, your hair's so thin, right? That was kind of a rude comment, but that's neither here nor there. So I decided that before I moved to New York, right, I was 25 when I started my PhD program. I got admission into a PhD program in New York, and I was so excited, right? And I told myself before I moved to New York, I would do a big chop, because this was around the time that Taryn 916 and what's her name? I'm forgetting her name. There's another one that I still follow. I don't think Taryn 916 does YouTube videos, hair YouTube videos anymore, but there's another one, and I don't know why her name is escaping me, because I was literally just scrolling my YouTube and she popped up, her video popped up. I forget her name, Lord. I'm gonna think about it after when I'm editing this video. But there were like, it was the natural hair community was popping. And I was like, yo, I gotta go natural. So I did a big chop. I'll show y'all some pictures here. And I struggled with that, right? Because it was the first time I had ever had like hair that was this short. And I remember when I was dating at that point and I was trying to meet someone. And I remember I would meet guys and some guys would be like, okay, sis, I see you with the short hair. But I just felt like naked because I had no hair. And I felt like part of my femininity was like gone, because so many of us wrap our identities and our conception of our femininity, with in our hair. Society does that, right? If a woman has long hair, she's typically deemed as more beautiful. So we find a correlation between long hair and attractiveness and desirability, right? That's the word I was looking for. So I felt like I was not desirable because I had short hair. So I felt like I was not desirable because I had short hair. And I feel like a few months later, I ended up going to the hairstylist that I've been going to for over 10 years now in Long Island, New York, Tina. Shout out to my girl, Tina. I just walked into the hair salon and I was like, can you do my hair? And my hair was like this long then. And I was like, are you able to? And she was like, yeah, I think I could do it, right? Because it was super short. Some stylists wouldn't have done it. And I started getting, around that time, I started getting weaves. So I went back to what felt safe for me. And I started getting weaves. I wasn't a big braid. I got braids growing up because that's what, my mom did crochet. My mom did our braids. But when it came to college and graduate school, I wasn't doing braids. Because in my mind, I felt like I didn't want hairstyles that were too black, right? This was my train of thought. And then when I got into my PhD program, even then I was like, I'm gonna do hair extensions. I'm gonna do weaves. I'm gonna do, I don't think I did wigs actually back then, but I was like, I'm gonna do weaves because it's what I felt was socially acceptable. And then when I graduated with my PhD, I think it was around 2018 that I started, so just 5 years ago, that I started really pushing back against what I had sort of internalized and what I had ingrained in myself when it comes to my hair, right? And it was around this time that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna rock these braids. I'm gonna start rocking hairstyles that are authentic and true to me and that feel good to me. And so I started doing jumbo braids. I started doing all kinds of hairstyles, right? And during COVID, I would say, is when I really, just in the last 3 years, I've really started to get more in touch with myself and my hair and feel more comfortable wearing my hair out, because it was tough, right? As somebody that my mom always poured into us, my father always poured into us, my parents and no one in my family ever made me feel like my hair wasn't acceptable. But it was when I would turn on the TV and I would hear some of my friends made jokes, but comments about my hair, right? And not in an offensive way, but I always remember the friend of mine who asked about my hair and the thinness of it. And it's because I was getting like chemicals in it. that I feel like my hair was super thin and stringy, right? But I know like the little comments here and there, the microaggressions and the things that people have said, even the folks that I'm not close with or affiliated with, right, that have made those little comments. And I think I had internalized all of those. And it wasn't really until COVID, when I wasn't able to go to my stylist, that, and I gotta check my food, hold on. So it wasn't until COVID that I really started interrogating my relationship with my hair, right? And I started wearing my hair out more, but I would be lying if I said I'm 100% comfortable wearing my hair out 24/7. Part of the reason though is that it takes about 2 hours to detangle my hair, right? My hair, if I don't detangle it in the shower, which I never do because I don't want to stand under the water for that long. If I don't detangle it in the shower, it takes a very long time, and it's a job, right? Like my arms need to be like, my arms would be super diesel if I was doing that every week, right? So having a protective style like crochet locks, like I have in now, helps with manageability, right? But I think I'm still coming to terms with fully accepting my 4C hair, right? I know that some of y'all might be watching and thinking that at the end of this story I was gonna say, and now I love my 4C hair. I do love my hair, and I'm grateful to have, my hair is so thick, right? I'm grateful to have hair that grows toward God versus that grows down, right? But it's a journey, and I think it's a lifelong journey, especially when you've been programmed to favor whiteness, to cater yourself to whiteness, to try to have a proximity to whiteness, to center whiteness, right? In my book, I'm coming out with a book in October. In my book, Decentering Whiteness in the Workplace, I talk about this, and I talk a lot about my hair journey, right? And what I went through navigating the politics of black hair, right? That's essentially what it is. And it's still an ongoing thing where every day I have to pour into myself and feed myself positive affirmations as a words of affirmations love language person. But it's definitely a journey, right? The texturism that I've experienced, where I feel like within the natural hair community, and I've talked about this in other videos, and I know that Julesy is a creator that I've followed for years, and she's talked about this in videos before, but I feel like in the natural hair community, my hair isn't acceptable. I received years ago, probably in like 2020, maybe 2021, because there was a BuzzFeed casting that they were looking for people to make jollof rice. My sister sent it to me, and my partner is Ghanaian, so like I've tried to perfect my jollof rice recipe, right? As a Cameroonian or a descendant of, you know, Cameroonians, my parents don't, jollof is not our thing. So BuzzFeed was doing a casting where they were looking for somebody, like people to compete with their jollof rice recipe. They didn't end up choosing me, but I'm on the BuzzFeed casting list. So they sent me a bunch of castings, and there was a specific casting. I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna post it right here in my email because I saved it. And the person was specifically asking for people with 3 type hair, right? Which is not me. They were asking for, it was a hair video or some sort of campaign that they were doing, and they were explicitly asking for people without my hair type, right? Texturism in a hair campaign, right? Which was wild to me because it was not that long ago, right? So texturism is still a thing. And so I encourage y'all to, thank y'all for listening to my story. I just wanted to share this, and I know that some of you can relate, but I've written many articles about this, and I'm glad that more conversations about people's hair experiences are being put to the forefront. I'm really glad that I was able to write this Harvard Business Review article, because as far as I know, this is the first article in Harvard Business Review that has ever talked explicitly about hair discrimination that Black women at work face. So I was so excited that I could be the one to write that and to push this conversation forward. But what also makes me really happy is that the legislation that's being put forth, the Crown Act. So shout out to Adwoa Asmoa, who I had the opportunity to interview, and she's one of the architects of the Crown Act. And the Crown Act is a piece of legislation that is currently in place in 20 different states out of the 50 states in the US, and it essentially prohibits race-based hair discrimination. And so it makes me happy to know that when I have children, they will live in a world where there will be protections against what I experienced, right? And so I think that it's important for more of us to be sharing our journeys and having these conversations, because people don't understand, especially those who don't have type 4 hair. And so that's why I felt like it was really important to share my experience and share my journey. And yeah, and also make my return back to YouTube. I'm trying to be more active on here. I feel like every video, that's what I've been saying now. But for those of you who are my OG subscribers, you know that there was several years where I was so consistent on YouTube, and so much has changed since 2011 when I got on here. Can't believe it, 12 years. But I'm really glad to be back, and you can look out for more videos from me in the very near future. Thank y'all so much for watching. My food is almost ready. I love y'all, and I will see y'all in the next video.